People will destroy their future for stupid reasons. A moment of hunger, a moment of weakness, a moment of impatience. And suddenly, what matters most is gone. This is Genesis 25, containing one of the dumbest trades in human history. A man throws away his birthright for a bowl of stew. Now, I've had some good stew in my life, but to throw away your birthright for a bowl of stew is incredible. But before you laugh at him, how many times have you done the exact same thing? How many times have you traded something eternal for something you want it right now? Because this chapter isn't just about Esau, it's about us. But before we get into that famous moment, Genesis 25 begins with something most people skip by. Abraham is old, very old. Sarah has died. Isaac is now carrying the covenant promise. And yet, Abraham's story isn't quite finished. He marries another woman named Keturah. They have several children together. Abraham becomes the father of many nations, just as God promised. Not just one son, not just one family, nations. But notice something important. Abraham makes sure Isaac remains the heir of the covenant. The promise God gave isn't divided among all his children. It continues through Isaac, the line that will eventually lead to Israel and ultimately to Jesus. Then Abraham dies at 175 years old. A long life, a remarkable life, a life full of victories and failures, faith and mistakes, obedience and doubt. And that's encouraging because Abraham wasn't perfect, but God remained faithful anyway. Isaac and Ishmael bury their father together. For a brief moment, the divided sons stand side by side. And Abraham's story comes to an end. Now, the chapter turns, and this is where things get interesting. Isaac marries Rebekah, but there's a problem. A familiar problem. She can't have children. Sound familiar? Sarah was barren. Now Rebekah is barren. Again, the promise appears impossible. Again, God's plan looks stalled. Again, human beings are forced to wait. Because God seems to love teaching people patience. And we hate learning it. Isaac prays, and God answers. Rebekah becomes pregnant. But the pregnancy is violent. Something is wrong. The children inside her are struggling against each other, fighting, wrestling, competing, before they're even born. So she seeks God, and God gives an astonishing answer. This is the line that changes everything in this chapter. Genesis 25:23. 2 nations are in your womb. Not just 2 boys, 2 nations, 2 peoples, 2 futures, 2 destinies. And then God says something shocking. The older shall serve the younger. That wasn't how the world worked back then. The firstborn inherited the blessing. The firstborn received the birthright. The firstborn held the position of honor. But God declares his plan before either child has even taken a breath. God isn't following human expectations. Human expectations are following God. The twins are born. The first comes out red and hairy. They name him Esau. The second comes out grabbing Esau's heel. They name him Jacob. And right from the beginning, the conflict has already started. Esau grows into a hunter, an outdoorsman, a rugged man of the field. Isaac loves him. Jacob is different. More reserved, more settled. Rebekah favors him. And if you've read Genesis before, you know exactly where this is heading. Family favoritism never ends well. Never. Then comes the moment everybody remembers. Esau comes in from the field, exhausted, hungry, starving. Jacob is cooking a stew, and Esau wants some. Jacob sees an opportunity. Sell me your birthright. Now think about that. The birthright wasn't a small thing. It wasn't trading baseball cards. This wasn't borrowing $20. The birthright represents inheritance, authority, leadership, family position, and future blessing. It mattered a lot. But Esau doesn't see it that way. He says, I am about to die. I'm about to die. That's how hungry he was. I'm about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me? And there it is. The entire problem. Esau is focused on right now. Jacob is focused on later. Esau sees stew. Jacob sees inheritance. Esau sees hunger. Jacob sees the future. One is thinking about minutes. The other is thinking about generations. So Esau swears an oath, and Jacob gives him the bread and stew. And the deal is done. Then Moses records one devastating line here. One sentence, one verdict. Genesis 25:34. So Esau despised his birthright. Not ignored, not misunderstood, despised. He looked at something valuable and treated it like garbage. And this is where the chapter stops being about Esau, because people still do this every day. Every day, how many marriages have been destroyed for one moment of pleasure? How many futures have been sacrificed for one bad decision? How many people have traded character for comfort, truth for popularity, obedience for convenience? We read about Esau and think, how could he be so foolish? And then we make the exact same trade. The scary thing about temptation is that it usually offers something real. Esau really was hungry. The temptation wasn't imaginary. The problem was perspective. He treated a temporary need as more important than a permanent blessing. And that mistake still destroys people today. God's plans don't depend on human customs. God chooses according to his purposes. God remains faithful to his promises across generations. And even when people make terrible decisions, his larger plan continues. People are often impatient. People focus on immediate gratification. People undervalue what God values. And people routinely trade eternal things for temporary things. Which brings us back to the question: what are you trading away right now? Your integrity, your marriage, your faith, your relationship with God, your future? Because most people don't lose those things all at once. They lose them one bowl of stew at a time. One compromise, one excuse, one moment. Genesis 25 isn't just a story about two brothers. It's a warning. A warning about what happens when immediate desires become more important than eternal realities. And every one of us has to decide which future we're willing to trade for today's appetites. May the truth set us all free.